misinterpreted and not taught the proper way. So he is establishing the real culture of India, the Vedic culture, in its pure form, which no one else outside the disciplic succession has done. But over time, like the teachings of Lord Chaitanya in Bengal become covered. And then Krishna has to reestablish it. Time I come to reestablish the principles of religiosity. So Srila Prabhupada was sent by Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, to reestablish Krishna consciousness, to, as we say, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gaudavani Pracharane, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi, Paskachat, this Satarna. To kick out these impersonalists and establish the personality of Godhead. They want God, but they don't want the person. They just want to, use him for their own purposes. But God is a person. And one has to understand how to approach that person, how to serve him, how to get his love and share his love, reciprocate his love. So that responsibility now is on your shoulders because you are next in line. That's the disciplic succession. Now, some people think that they don't need a disciplic succession, but that's not what Prabhupada teaches. You read his teaching, it's very clear. There's a spiritual master and there's a disciple. That spiritual master doesn't remain for eternity. There wouldn't be a disciplic succession. There'd only be one spiritual master. You wouldn't need spiritual masters. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says how to realize this knowledge. He says one must approach a spiritual master. So they use word jugglery to try and tell you something else, but it's not true. I mean, there may be, issues, but Prabhupada is overriding everything in ISKCON. So he's always available to the disciple. You can't use the argument that, the spiritual master fell down, and that means the whole concept of spiritual master is not valid, because that's not the truth. The truth is, Prabhupada is present regardless of the spiritual masters, because that's why he created ISKCON. That's why he printed books. His Guru Maharaj told them, he said, you can sell the marbles and print books that will be something that lasts, because he could understand the Bani presented in the books is permanent feature that anyone can take advantage of. The presence of Prabhupada is in his books, and that can last for thousands of years. So yes, you can take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, but you can also take shelter of the spiritual master, both simultaneously. You have the initiating guru, and then you have the Siksha Guru, the teaching Guru. But they're the same. So they're both supposed to come out with the same understanding. But from Prabhupada's books, if the spiritual master is doing something that's not valid, because the books will tell you what's valid and what's not. So we have to take responsibility for our own spiritual life and adhere to Srila Prabhupada's teachings, which he made so much effort to give us. He didn't, in the middle of the night, he's translating and bringing these books for the conditioned souls. That's the compassion of the spiritual master. When I was with Srila Prabhupada in Australia, I was with him. I was staying in his quarters with him, and in the middle of the night, I heard a bell ringing, and I went into Prabhupada's room to see what he wanted, and he motioned for me to sit down. when you're serving Srila Prabhupada, he doesn't have to vocalize everything. By a nod, by a look, by a motion of his hand, he communicates with his disciple, and we enjoy that reciprocation. So anyway, he motioned for me to sit down, and he turned, and he was looking at me, and there were tears streaming from his eyes. And he pointed he had his Srimad Bhagwatam open in front of him. The room was dark, but there was a little light where he was reading from. He wasn't translating, he was reading. And he was reading about Prahlad Maharaj, which is very important. And he started talking about the compassion of the Vaishnava. How he doesn't want to go back to home, back to Godhead alone, leaving the conditioned souls to suffer repeated birth, death, disease, and old age. But he wants to bring them with him. That's why he comes here. He opens the door. In the beginning, we didn't have Gaur Arti. But then Srila Prabhupada introduced it because he's opening a portal to the spiritual world. The Gaur Arti is on the bank of the Ganga, and worship is being performed to Lord Chaitanya and his associates. And one time, someone complained, "Oh, Prabhupada, there weren't very many people present." Prabhupada said, "You didn't see Narada Muni?" So all the demigods are present. We just have to enter into that spiritual activity that's going on during Gaur Arti and the deity worship. He's spiritualizing this material world. And now that the temples are expanding more and more people are getting the opportunity to have Prabhupada's association of the deities, and to take this movement seriously. Now the government is even assisting in some ways in the spread of this movement. See how India is developing such high technology, and it's like sending a spaceship to the moon or to the planets, other planets, at a fraction of the cost of other places. So India has unique abilities. And we see, that it's a great opportunity. I mean, so many educated people are coming forward to take part in this movement because they're getting Srila Prabhupada's mercy. So we also have to take advantage of that. Hare Krishna, I think my throat is gone.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for sharing such personal realizations with Prabhupada. It's a great opportunity for us to be able to hear those from some actual witnesses. Prabhu, my question is that you were doing your study when you came in touch with Prabhupada and you completed your studies.
Yes, Srila Prabhupada told me.
Yes.
He said, complete your education, but use it for Krishna. So we can spiritualize anything.
Yes. And then you also entered into Grihastha-ashram, you got married. And even though you were married, but then it did not change. You went on,
Well, that was because I made a lot of mistakes, and we thought we were doing it to push the movement forward. But sometimes Maya is very sneaky, But Prabhupada never chastised me because we had a special relationship. And he always would just send me to some new GBC in South India, or something, GBC in Australia, and give me some other work to do. And before he left this planet physically, although he's present here now, he gave us the opportunity to massage his lotus feet as he rested. Now, he didn't need that service. Anyone could have done that. But he is bringing us back to home, pulling us sometimes, dragging us back to home, back to Godhead. So that service is for our benefit, not for his benefit. He didn't need like Krishna doesn't need anything. But if you offer with love, he will accept it. So in the same way, Srila Prabhupada accepted our service in order to benefit us. He's already a pure soul. What does he need? He's coming from Goloka Vrindavan. And he's going back to Goloka Vrindavan. But he's trying to bring as many of us back also. So he would always, people had different relationships with him.
So Prabhu, my question is that in contrast to the earlier years of our movement when most devotees were in the renounced ashram, they were brahmacharis. So today we have, especially in India, most of ISKCON is like into grahastha ashram. So how do we then inspire, or like how do I who is married but wanting to serve, but then also like so like how to, because there are two things. One is to have
There's no Krishna consciousness doesn't discriminate from one ashram to the other. They're all equal. I mean, Lord Chaitanya, some of the people who were the highest, I think Ramananda Roy was married, right? So there's nothing higher than that. It doesn't prevent you from advancing. You just have to want it.
Prabhu, but then my confusion or question is that one thing is to have a job outside to earn money and to live, like have a home, for that you need to work. The other thing is to live as you live, like traveling across the world along with your family or like your spouse and just spreading Krishna consciousness.
Well, the best thing I've seen, like Rasa Priya and his wife are doing so much service, Prabhupada, together. You have to engage your family in Krishna consciousness. This Prabhu's family is all engaged in Krishna service. So we have to spiritualize everything.
I teach at a university. I have to leave. I have to reach there by 9. I get free by 5. So I like
You do what you can. Sometimes you have to maintain your family. That's understood. There's no problem with that. But you can still, you have to just try and adjust things so that you get the most spiritual benefit. And you can keep your deities at home also. So the family, and set an example. But it can be done. Prabhupada did it. So many devotees have done it.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Any other questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So you mentioned that you first met Srila Prabhupada in 1968.
What's that?
You mentioned that you first Srila Prabhupada in 1968, and till now you have been serving Srila Prabhupada so nicely. So it's close to 60 years.
Yeah, I was in government service for some time.
Okay.
But in our line, that's accepted because the Goswamis were in government service. Wait, not only them, Thakur Bhakti Vinod was in civil service. And even Bhakti Siddhanta for a short time. So, but at some point, Krishna says, okay, time's up. Time to come home. we can't, but we don't lose that connection to Srila Prabhupada. That is never forgotten. You know, we have to keep that in the back of our head. And I used that time to write a book about, to glorify Srila Prabhupada. And I was in communication with other devotees. I did a parikram in Navadvip of the 9 islands. And, you know, Krishna has his way. He doesn't let us escape. You know, he always figures out how to pull us back. You know, he gives us a little slack sometimes. You know, think about it, what's going on. And there was a lot of different things going on, you know, at different times. But the ones who are sincere, who are close to him, that's eternal. Some of us, we may have known Prabhupada in the previous birth. And now we're either here to assist him or to finish our business. When I was preaching I didn't meet a lot of devotees when I was preaching because I was in like Hong Kong, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, Fiji, Bangkok. There were so many different places. There weren't any devotees. All I had was Prabhupada. He wrote me over 150 letters. Which I recently gave to the archives. But I had so many different services. You know, ISKCON Press, Henry Street. Prabhupada used to come to Henry Street in Brooklyn, the Henry Street Temple. He used to say, oh, this is the Vaikuntha atmosphere. It was so, and the devotees who were there, I just met one in Vrindavan, I think his name is Gadagraj, has a really unique face, if you ever see him. And other devotees have mentioned that that was their best time in ISKCON at the Henry Street Temple. It was just so, because many devotees from ISKCON Press were there who were working on helping to publish his books. So everyone was very focused on Srila Prabhupada. And the New York devotees, they helped to fulfill Prabhupada's desires. When he wanted to purchase the land in Juhu, I recently learned, because I was at the celebration of the 60th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada arriving in Boston. He arrived in Boston first. And I heard the story about how he used to go to see Sumati Morarji in Bombay to beg a passage to go to America on one of her ships. And when he used to go to see her, he passed this beautiful land in Juhu. And he was thinking, oh Krishna, this is such a beautiful piece of land. If the temple was here, it would be glorious. And then 50 years later, how many years later, actually? 10? 20 years later, Krishna fulfilled that dream of Srila Prabhupada. That's the relationship between Krishna and the pure devotee. You know, even if people had to die in order to fulfill it, that's more important. Because everyone dies, it's just a question of time, right? So Mr. Nair was preventing it, he had to go. And then Srila Prabhupada contacted me in New York and asked me to send the money that had been collected for a temple in New York to Bombay so he could purchase this land. You know, and I was able to send it to him, and he was so happy when he purchased the Juhu land in Bombay. So this is how you please the spiritual master, you know, find a way to please him. He's certainly pleased by these temples in India, because that was one of his main purposes, to make Krishna consciousness popular in the West, because his spiritual master asked him to do that. And then he was so intelligent that he used those Western devotees to turn the people of India back to the real religion of India, back to the real culture of India. So, I mean, that's just amazing. It's an amazing story, really, if you think about it. And it's glorious if you're able to take part in it, whatever you can do. You don't have to take sannyas. You don't have to do anything, because everything is possible from wherever you're at. That's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. That's why we reestablishing the real religion of India, not this fake, hereditary institution that only if you were born in a certain way. I mean, Lord Chaitanya showed that with Haridas Thakur, Namacharya, how much he loved devotees like that who were pure but may have had births that wouldn't be acceptable to the, what they call them, smarta Brahmins. So anything is possible in Krishna consciousness. Did I answer the question?
Yes, Prabhuji. So you very nicely shared many of your personal experiences with Srila Prabhupada. So my question was, in this close to 60 years of your dedicated service in this movement, there certainly would have been many instances or difficult times, provoking situations in your life as well. Because
There's always difficulties. There's always difficulties, yeah.
Yeah, so
The more you come to Krishna, the more Maya will come to you. So you have to take shelter. I heard a Maharaj, Radhanath Maharaj was talking about Maya in one recent lecture, and he said that Maya is so strong, don't think you can overcome it by yourself. It's so powerful. I mean, just see these forces of Maya, enslaving people. But you have to take shelter of the spiritual master and Krishna to extricate you. Because Maya will try to pull you back. She sees you becoming a devotee. She will come up with all kinds of things, temptations. Even Jesus Christ. Isn't there a story, the temptation of Christ? Or in our own line, Haridas Thakur. So there will always be some temptation. And even in us, Prabhupada was told he was going to become a rich man. But Krishna took everything away. And the same thing with many of us. We dream of, becoming multimillionaires, and Krishna takes it all away. And that all we have is Krishna to depend on. But, I mean, that's for our benefit, because our devotional family is our real family, the family that we're with eternally, not this temporary dream that we think is reality, but in actuality is not really reality. But we can spiritualize it. So you can spiritualize your family, and then it all becomes glorious. You'll be doing the best not only for yourself, but for your family. I mean, everyone is attached to their children. What could be better than your children becoming devotees? I mean, we have now the second generation, third generation, and we see these souls born in the families of devotees. And that's not a guarantee. Like Prabhupada says, it's an opportunity. And we have to take that opportunity. They also have to use their free will. It's not a given that they're going to become great devotees, but it's possible, and it's up to them. That's the meaning of free will. Prabhupada's holding that door open, but we still have to walk through it. Anyone, he's holding it open for everyone. Does that answer it?
Yes, pretty much, Prabhuji. So one of my question was how to take shelter of spiritual master when the spiritual master is not physically present.
Because you have Prabhupada is present. I mean, Prabhupada is present in his Vani, in ISKCON. So engage in pushing Prabhupada's mission forward. I mean, the Prabhupada wants everyone to work together. So there's no difference between the Siksha Guru, initiating Guru. It's all, Guru is one. So the mission is there. So take part in it. And you not only please your spiritual master, you also please Srila Prabhupada. And that's why he's creating these temples for you to be involved in. Prabhupada doesn't need temples. He has his books, his teachings there. But this is a shelter to engage us in his service. So it's not a problem. Don't feel bereft. Prabhupada, you can feel his presence, his potency. You just have to be an open conduit, develop, the purity described in this verse, to become a conduit for that connection. If a wire is, if the copper wire is cut, electricity can't pass through. So it has to be, that's why the disciplic succession is so important, for that potency to go through it. It has to be continuous. So your spiritual master was Prabhupada's disciple, correct?
Right.
So you're part of that same line. So you're not bereft. The line is still here. You just have to join it. The temple is here. Devotees of Prabhupada's disciples are here. And soon will be the disciples of their disciples. That's why the future is so important. Because you have a big job to do. I mean, over 350 temples now in India. So India will lead the world in pushing Krishna consciousness all over the world. Even in America, so many Indian devotees are doing such nice service, in the temples. In Boston, we have Vanamali Pandit. Very nice devotee. He's a disciple of Radhanath Maharaj. And, you don't differentiate, because ISKCON is all Prabhupada's mission. It's all one. Don't let someone trick you into thinking there's some simple solution to everything. It's complicated, but it's real. Any other questions?
Prabhuji, one more question if you may
Sure,
allow.
sure.
Yeah. So the question was how to be tolerant in provocating situations. We read or hear a lot about humility, tolerance.
About what?
How to be tolerant in provoking situations. How to be tolerant in provoking situations.
Like what kind of situation?
I mean, disagreement between devotees, disagreement of opinions between devotees. So,
I mean, differences of opinion?
differences of opinions, yeah.
We have to work cooperatively. If both parties are sincere, they'll find a way to bridge, any difficulties there's always a solution. Sometimes it depends on, you have to surrender a little bit of your ego, in order to proceed. But Prabhupada said, was to say nothing is impossible for Krishna. So nothing is impossible to complete, for Krishna's sake. There's always a way if the two parties are sincere. Because if they want to please Krishna and please Prabhupada, they will cooperate, find a way to cooperate. I mean, is there any example you can think of that you would think it was not possible?
No, I think it was possible. It is possible, yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Very well.
Thank you so very much, Prabhuji. Anyone has any other question? इनका कोई और प्रश्न है?
In the Bhagwatam, no one's going to stay in a movement for 50 years if they're not feeling the results. The Bhagwatam says that one who has once tasted the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord can never forget it. So it doesn't have to be permanent, but you get that taste, and then you want to experience it again and more and more and more. And that will keep you, involved and moving, advancing. And if you do, even if you do fall down, say you have a big problem and your spiritual advancement is interrupted. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna answers that question. He says, you will be able to continue from the point that you reached. None of the advancement that you made previously will ever be lost. But when you re-engage yourself, you will continue from that point going forward. You may have to take another birth, but that's up to you. But you'll still continue in your next birth. That's why maybe some of these people being born in devotee families, they may be getting the chance to finish up the business. But it's up to them.
Hare Krishna. So these pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, we read in scriptures, or we read in other books, but now today we had the personality to actually witness those. So it is a very, very great fortune. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. And we also thank you so much for telling us how now the responsibility of the movement is gradually on our shoulders, and how we have to, by reading Prabhupada books and taking his shelter and the shelter of his disciples, we have to understand that this responsibility and act accordingly. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. So we thank Prabhuji by loudly chanting.
You inspire me to try and do more. So you are my inspiration.
So we'll thank Prabhuji from the bottom of our hearts, loudly chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Prabhu, come here. Hare Krishna.